I'm Nicole. The tension in the room was palpable as my parents stared at me in disbelief, their faces a mix of shock and horror. My daughter's soft whisper, "Mom, are we rich?" still echoed in my ears. It was a moment of sweet vindication, a turning point that had been a long time coming. It all started at our annual Thanksgiving dinner in our family home in Seattle. Every year, the scene was the same. My parents, John and Linda, always played favorites. My brother, Jake, a 32-year-old businessman, and my sister, Emily, a 30-year-old socialite, along with their children, were always the center of attention. As dessert was placed on the table, my parents beamed with pride, as if they had won some great family competition. Jake received a high-end Swiss watch worth over $10,000. Emily was presented with a pair of diamond earrings that sparkled under the dining room lights. Their kids, Tommy, 8, and Lily, 6, were showered with the latest gaming consoles, shiny bicycles, and envelopes filled with crisp $100 bills. Then, it was my children's turn. My son, Ethan, 10, and my daughter, Ava, 8, sat there expectantly, their eyes wide. But nothing came their way. Not even a simple trinket. Linda lifted her glass of wine, a smug look on her face, and said, "We assumed you couldn't afford gifts this year, Nicole, so we focused on the children who really matter." The silence in the room was deafening. I could hear the soft ticking of the clock on the wall and the faint sound of the leftover turkey cooling. Ethan looked down at his empty lap, his shoulders slumping. Ava forced a smile, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. It was a smile that broke my heart more than any harsh words could have. I took a deep breath. I had planned this moment for a long time. I stood up and slid 2 small, velvet boxes across the table to Ethan and Ava. "Open them," I said, my voice calm and steady. As they opened the boxes, a silver key glinted in the light. My father, John, scoffed. "What is this? A toy?" he asked, his voice full of derision. I smiled and replied, "Not exactly." I then handed them 2 thick folders. Inside each folder was a deed to a fully paid college trust and a beautiful beach house on the Oregon coast that had belonged to my grandmother, Rose. My parents had always claimed that Grandma Rose had left everything to them. Linda's face turned pale as a sheet. "That house is ours," she stammered. I shook my head and pulled out one final document. Grandma changed her will 6 months before she died. She left the property to the only grandchildren she believed would grow up knowing kindness, I said firmly. John's hands trembled as he grabbed the papers. But the real bombshell was yet to come. "I'm also the executor of her estate," I announced. "And I've spent the last year auditing where her money went." Jake nearly dropped his fork when he saw the copies of legal notices hidden in the folders. It turned out that my parents had quietly borrowed $300,000 from Grandma Rose's accounts without anyone's knowledge. By Monday morning, my attorney would be filing a lawsuit against them. The expensive gifts around the table suddenly seemed so insignificant. Ava hugged me tightly and whispered in my ear, Mom, are we rich?" I kissed her forehead and said, "No, sweetheart. We're respected." And for the first time in my life, everyone at this table understood the difference. I looked around the table at my family. The shock on their faces was a sight to behold. The years of being overlooked, of being treated as the less important child, had finally come to an end. This Thanksgiving would be remembered as the day when justice was served, and the true values of family were revealed. It was a long-standing pattern in our family. My parents had always favored Jake and Emily. They were the ones who followed the path my parents had set out for them. Jake had a successful business, and Emily married into a wealthy family. I, on the other hand, had chosen a different path. I was a schoolteacher, and I had always focused on raising my children with love and kindness. Grandma Rose was different. She saw the good in me, in my children. She knew that we were the ones who truly understood the meaning of family and respect. That's why she made the decision to change her will. I remembered the day I found out about the will. I was at Grandma Rose's bedside as she was getting weaker. She took my hand and told me about the changes she had made. She said, "Nicole, you and your children have always had kind hearts. You deserve this more than anyone." I had tears in my eyes as I listened to her. Over the next year, I worked with my attorney to audit Grandma Rose's accounts. It was a long and difficult process, but I knew it was the right thing to do. When we discovered the large-scale borrowing by my parents, I was angry, but also determined to set things right. As I sat there at the Thanksgiving table, watching the reactions of my family, I felt a sense of closure. The years of being mistreated had finally caught up with my parents. The legal battle that was about to ensue would be tough, but I was ready. I looked at my children, their faces full of excitement and pride. They had no idea what was about to happen, but they knew that something special was going on. I knew that from this day forward, our family dynamic would never be the same. The silence in the room was still heavy, but it was a different kind of silence. It was a silence filled with realization, with the understanding that actions have consequences. And as I sat there, I knew that I had done the right thing. I had stood up for myself and my children, and I had shown my family the true meaning of respect and integrity. If you love stories where silence is sharper than any scream, and karma arrives dressed for dinner, subscribe to my channel. Some family feasts end with pie. Others end with a legal summons.